Well, it's interesting over the last, gosh, it's hard to believe. Has it been, how many? It feels like it's been 5 months. How many weeks has it really been? Anybody know? Or how many days? Maybe the 15th of March? Anybody got an idea? Does that sound about right? 15th, 16th? So we're at the 7th. So we're about 3 weeks into this. And it's fascinating to think. So part of the reason why this started and this rhythm and resilience is I kept getting these message about, Michelle, you've got to find a new rhythm. You've got to find a new rhythm, else you're not going to have resilience through this. And so the words I was hearing, and for me, I typically hear more of the, for me, my spirit talks to me usually in the shower or the last hour of my sleep in the morning, between that 4:30 and 5:30 in the morning. And I kept hearing, you got to find some rhythm in order to get through this reset. And so after I started to find a little bit of rhythm, I want to tell you, I feel like I'm finally getting a little rhythm the last few days. And it said, okay, well, how do you get your friends to help you help people? And so with the help of Eleanor, who's on the call here, we said, okay, well, now how do we do this? So we thought about Mondays would be motivational Mondays. So how do we get motivated on Monday? Tuesdays would be total health. Hold on one second. Okay, she says one moment. Tuesday's total health. So how do we focus on our total health? Wednesday's wisdom. Thursday's talk story. Kind of in Hawaii, they have something called Ho'oponopono. And Ho'oponopono means having some talk story and how do you really kind of get the grumblings out. And so we've got some counselors that'll be joining us on that day. And then Friday, we've for Friday Fun. So we've invited people that are kind of more the fun people in our, in our awareness. Oh, it looks like you got your daughter helping you, Shamayne. I see her there. Hang on, she's on. And so how do we, over the next 4 weeks, help each other get through this? So once again, yesterday, we started off with a bang with John O'Leary and that Motivational Monday. And today we're going to take a turn and we're going to kind of dive more into total health and how could you be looking at your body from a whole health perspective. And so that's what we're doing today. Just a couple of housekeeping things. I've got you all on mute. There will be a replay of this, and you probably got a replay of John O'Leary as well this morning. And there'll be a replay of this for you yourself or for you to share with friends. If you want to chat, there is a chat screen on the bottom here. If you see that, I'm going to open my chat up. Oh, how do I do that? Let's see. Okay, I'll move it to the side over here. Eleanor, you want to start a chat there. And so if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat there, and then we'll go through those as we start to go through this talk and at the end. Okay, and then I'd love for you to maybe think at the end, and when this kind of happened by chance yesterday, is I had on my notes here, because I got my notes here, it says I wanted to share how John inspires me, and you guys were writing it in the chat section. That was so great to read what you guys were feeling. And so hopefully you'll have that same type of reaction today. So that's, once again, resilience. How do we get through this? We got to find resilience. And part of getting resilient is finding consistency. So how do you find consistent habits back in your routine so that you can thrive through this time? And so, like I said, today is Total Health Tuesdays. And I couldn't think of anybody better than to start with Shamayne Tate. Shamayne recognizes the interrelationship of body, mind, and spirit to ensure long, result-oriented treatments. Shamayne specializes in acute and chronic pain, emotional balancing, digestive disorders, and fertility acupuncture, as well as enhancing the immune system. She uses a wide range of treatment options, including acupuncture, Chinese herbs, Tui Na massage, nutritional therapy, cupping, moxibustion, and auricular therapy. So first of all, Shamayne, there's some of those things in there people might know what they are. And for those of you that have been around me a while, you know that Your Wellness Connection is founded on Chinese principles because of my teacher, Dr. Yenny. And so, Shamayne, why don't you tell people who you are, why you do what you do, and then we'll dive into what some of these modalities are, and then what are some things they could do at home. Okay? Well, welcome, by the way, Shamayne.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for being patient. I was trying to get on. My daughter had to help me with the technical difficulties. So my name is Shamayne. I'm an acupuncturist, a practitioner of Chinese medicine. I've been doing this for quite a while, almost about 20 years, and I've been with Michelle. I think we're going on a 13th year, Michelle.
Yeah, August will be 13 years.
Yep. So, Chinese medicine, what is it? Chinese medicine, it's a really broad umbrella. And like Michelle was saying, it does cover a lot of modalities. People mostly associate it with acupuncture and herb. So what is Chinese medicine? It's a medical system. It's a healthcare system. It's one of the oldest that that has been around, and one of the most widely used. And it's really just based on a really simple philosophy of balance. We know when we're balanced, we're healthy, and if we're out of balance, we're going to get sick in some way. And as a practitioner, it's my job to figure out, well, what is imbalance, and how do we restore our body's natural innate ability to be resilient and to heal itself? So how we figure out what's out of balance is we would do like a whole health history, asking you lots of different questions, looking for patterns that are going on within the body, because we're not focused on just one symptom. We're seeing how it's all related. Other ways that we kind of assess what's going on is looking. Are you pale? Are you bright red? Or we're listening. Is your voice, raspy? Is it really loud and hyper in a way? The other critical pieces is our unique diagnostic tools. And this is where we feel the pulse and we look at the tongue. In the pulse, we're feeling for over 30 different qualities, and we're checking in on 12 major organ systems. It's not just the rate that we're feeling, and I always have to tell people that it's not a psychic impression that we're getting. So I can't tell, if you're going to win the lottery this coming week. But I am able to tell what is balanced and out of balance in your body. So examples like what we feel in the pulse would be, is the pulse really weak? Do I have to really push down my fingers to feel it? Or does it feel really wiry, like a tight guitar string? These are characteristics that's telling me, is the liver involved? Is the lungs involved? The heart, etc. We look at the tongue, and again, the tongue is very reflective of what's going on in the body. The different colors, the coating, parts of the tongue, let us know. So once we come up with a diagnosis, then we put these needles in really specific points that activate this energy in qi. And what is qi? That's kind of $1 million question, but it is a vital energy that comes from the air we breathe, comes from the food that we take in our body. It's part of our genetic makeup as well. So we activate this qi that increases blood flow and oxygen throughout the whole body. Because if you imagine these meridians that the qi is flowing through, they're like rivers, and these rivers can become depleted. They can become stuck. Or they can be kind of going crazy and out of control. And it's my job as a practitioner, and also as the patient, including myself, taking care of our own body, to help regulate that and heal the body. So it all comes down to is just reminding the body what normal is, so it can heal itself.
Well, and that's the word you use, called innate, right? The body has an innate wisdom, yeah.
Right, yeah. So the body knows how to do it, but sometimes we just get overwhelmed, either by the stressors in our life. Our body becomes overwhelmed by us not having the right diet. So, or ingesting these toxins or fake foods as you have it, and the body can't keep up and can't detox as well. It's about our environment, what are we surrounding ourselves? So it's on all levels.
So when you think of the quadrants of well-being, just think about Chinese medicine, how that all kind of pulls in together. When I was thinking about this reset, this rhythm and resilience, I wanted to say, I don't know about you, but what I like to do is I like to do what people that know more than me are doing. And so from a Chinese medicine perspective, that's why I want to bring Shamayne on. And so you'll see some of the psychologists we're bringing on and different people. There's a saying that we have when I was 30 years ago in chiropractic school. They said, if you knew what I knew, you would do what I do. And so Shamayne. So on this, we're trying to give some guidance. We actually worked the first few weeks together, and both of us were I know I was frazzled, and it's so funny. I was running my hands through my hair today and realizing that my hair's falling out a little bit. And for me, I know that means stress. And that those 2 weeks were so much stress of trying to figure out, what's best for our patients, what's best for ourselves, what's best for our team, all those different things. So tell me kind of, what are you doing to navigate through this for you and your family? Because I know you're still seeing patients a couple days a week.
Yep. So yeah, I completely understand, relate. Just feeling overwhelmed. This is, clearly nothing we have gone through before. It was moments where you just had to say, stop, I need to practice what I preach. and what am I telling my patients, and what do I need to tell to myself and tell to speak to my family and friends about? The first one, the biggest one, was just to breathe. I wanted to do everything. I felt like I was overwhelmed, even with so much time. I didn't know how to even control that. So one is, getting a schedule, and to have that balance of not being too rigid, that I was allowing myself to do nothing as well. That was important. I felt like I always had to be accomplishing something. I better be following up with patients. I better be attending to my children. I better get the yard work done. And I was just like, wow, what if I just want to sit for a moment and just stare out to space, or stare out at the trees and listen to all these amazing birds, and do some grounding. Just before I got on this call, I went outside and got barefoot and walked in the grass, and just to reconnect to this living organism, our earth, and just say, okay, I'm just going to take in all this oxygen that I'm getting. Some other important things, along with breathing. So in Chinese medicine, one of the biggest part of our immune system comes from the lungs. It comes from the lungs and the lungs meridian. So the lungs produce a very specific type of energy, a different called Wei Qi, which is defensive Qi or protective Qi. Mm-hmm. So this runs along, we believe, like the surface of the body, that helps protect us from pathogens and from outside viruses, bacteria, etc. One way that we can increase that energy is by doing some really great breathing exercises, Qigong exercise, that we do some deep breathing. One thing that I would love to show you, I don't know if now would be an appropriate time, an exercise to do, or that we can do.
Yeah.
Is I'm going to kind of combine two different exercises together. So the lung meridian obviously originates in the lungs, and it comes out just below the clavicle here, a little bit closer to your shoulder, right? So, and then it comes out and it travels along the inside of our arm and goes all the way down into the thumb. So one quick, easy way to kind of activate that energy, because all our meridians, all the organ systems either end or begin in our hands and in our feet. So what you can do is, we call it the baby fist. And this is where you actually just kind of grab your thumbs. And just by putting that pressure on there, you are activating that lung channel. You can take deep breaths by just expanding your chest and over your hands, over your head, and inhaling and then exhaling and coming back out. So what I want to do is combine this with some pulmonary hygiene techniques that you see with a lot of pulmonary therapists and then doctors, and even what they're doing in the hospitals today. So one, you could use this as prevention, and two, you could also really use this if you feel that you're beginning to get sick with something that may be affecting your lungs. So what you can do is that you inhale as deep as you can through your nose, and you hold that breath for 5 seconds, and then you release it. So you will do this for 5 times. You inhale, hold your breath for 5, and then exhale. So on the 6th time that you inhale, and then you're going to cough, a very forceful cough. And of course, you want to cover your mouth with this. But when you inhale and then you exhale, so this forceful breath that you're taking out of your lungs is helping to start loosening up mucus that could be building up within there. They say to do this repetition twice, and then you lay down prone on your stomach on your bed and take some deep breaths for like another 5, 10, 15 minutes. Know that your lungs, the surface area, the majority of it is all on your back. It's not up here on your chest. So that's what they say, just being able to expand your lungs, not laying on your back all the time if you're sick, or if you're prone to bronchitis or asthma, laying on your side, taking those like 5 or 10 minutes of laying down on your stomach and doing that deep breathing will really help loosen up all that mucus and strengthen up the lung system.
That is really some great advice. So in Chinese medicine, the lung channel, it also correlates with the large intestine.
Yep.
Right? Because they're coupled meridians. How does the large intestine health play into the lung channel?
Okay.
Actually, before you answer that, go back a second and pretend like that we know nothing about the meridians. And okay. And just give us basic acupuncture, because some people, like, I love acupuncture. Crystal could care about it. You know, she's like, I don't notice anything. For me, and you've seen this because I come in to see you and I'm like kind of like a wilted plant, and I come out of it and I'm like, whoa. But some people don't have, and so that's another question. Why do some people have great results and some people don't? Mm-hmm. So 2 questions.
Yeah, that was a lot there. Just like any therapy, whether it be chiropractic, whether it be physical therapy, acupuncture, massage, something you see a typical MD for, or a medication, there's not a single medicine out there that's 100% effective for every single person 100% of the time. So we have to find what works with our body best and how we respond to it. Sometimes people that are at a really low place, and we could boost them up, that noticeable change happens very quickly. For some people where maybe they're doing great and they get the acupuncture treatment or an adjustment, they're able just to maintain where they're at. Like they feel well. It's not such a big disparity of where they're trying to go. So acupuncture with the Chinese medicine, the lungs and large intestines that you brought up, there's paired systems. So it's always about the balance, the yin and yang. So the lungs take in, right? We're taking in all this beautiful oxygen that is creating circulation throughout our entire body. And the large intestines helps us let go. So it's taking in and letting go. Large intestines is helping us let go of our toxins. Emotionally, it could be helping us, we talk about how emotions affect the organ systems. With the large intestines, are you holding on to grief? Are you holding on to anger? Are you holding on to whatever emotions might be? So we focus on that to let go of those emotions as well, decluttering our space, etc.
So let's dive into that a little bit. So a lot of people, if you've heard me talk at all, I talk about the hose between here and your anus and how important it is to keep that hose clear because it helps the immune system, which is super priority right now. So what are ways that, from your perspective, whether it's Chinese or traditional medicine, people can take care of that hose, thinking that is paired with the lung channel? So the healthier the large intestine channel is, would you assume that the lung's healthier too, or is that a bad assumption?
It's all relevant. I mean, it just depends what's going on with that person, and there may be other organ systems that might be influencing that as well.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things that I tell my patients is that your greatest power is what you could do for yourself. It's not me. It's not a practitioner. It's not a doctor. We are your last resort to help you, because you have all the power, and that power is taking time out for yourself, your meditation, your prayers. It's also your diet. It's what you put into what you put into your body. So with the lungs love what we call white food. So white food would be your garlic, it would be your onions, it would be your radishes. It would be the pears, the white with inside. All this helps nourish the lungs. And then, of course, if you look at the science behind it, these foods really have high properties to help kill bacteria and viral pathogens. Another key thing that you want to take in is the fiber as well. So again, that's going to help release all these toxins and the bad chi, the bad pathogens through the large intestines and the urinary bladder, of course. So that's a connection of something that they could do from mouth to anus.
So white foods, we're in a new season, spring right now, and I know in Chinese medicine they talk about seasonal eating and cold versus warm versus hot. So should they be eating it raw, cooked? What's the best way to do garlic and onions? The other part too is I want to talk about maybe some chicken soup. And I just saw some stuff, an article came out about good old fashioned chicken soup, hopefully, maybe gluten and dairy free. So give me some thoughts on that.
Okay. So yes, seasonally. So we're going into spring, which is actually liver time. But we could address all the organs regardless of what season we're in. But just to know right now that we're going to liver time. So this is where things are new, that they're growing. This is where we're going to see that really bright, wonderful green out when we look outside. And those are the foods that we'll start ingesting as well. So we're leaving winter, which was all our winter food, the squashes, those types of gourds, and where we had to cook more to help us digest because our energy is naturally weaker in the wintertime. So now we're on this incline of moving up. We're getting stronger. We're having more energy. So we're not at the pinnacle yet, which would be summer. So I would still encourage people, because our energy is still a little weak, that we should be having more steamed and more cooked food right now. But we are starting to introduce some of the foods that are raw. So we're going to start eating some more salads and more fruits that are coming into season. Lung time with our immune system happens to be in the fall. So that's a lot of times you see a lot of people that are having lung issues. It's happening around the fall time. But yeah, so now we're as summer, we are getting into, that's kind of the pinnacle. Our energy is the strongest and we're able to digest all those foods really well. And so we want to have an abundance of raw and fresh food.
Okay, so combination. So what are you feeding your family right now? You got any magic recipes for us? Yeah. We can even share it if you have a magical recipe to help the lung channel. Because what I feel like is that the stronger I get this host, then I'm not hosting a bacteria or a virus, and I just want to be so healthy that virus just pops right off me. It can't even attack me. That's what I've imagined in my mind.
That's a good image. Yeah. Secret recipes. Man, I got picky kids and I have a picky husband. They're doing pretty good though. So either what, I'm always trying to hide some really awesome vegetables and stuff in their food. Where I'm hiding the spinach and squash inside their brownies, healthy brownies, gluten-free, of course. But the soups, I'm a huge fan of bone broth. So, you talked about the chicken soup, adding all those wonderful garlic and onions into it, getting all that wonderful marrow in it and as much vegetables as you can. So there is not anything really specific that I have, but yeah, just incorporate, try new things. I always tell my kids, take a no thank you bite. If you don't like it, then you can say no thank you and walk away.
Well, I'm going to come to you, Russ, in a little bit, and I'm going to unmute you here. I'm just giving you heads up because I know you need time to think, because Russ is one of my chefs and friends. I'd love to know kind of how maybe you've got a recipe that you can share with us, since you are a master cook. It's amazing what you come up with. So Shamayne, a couple things I heard already for us to do. First of all, is we could do the qigong, grab our thumbs, Okay, this is easy for us all to do. Well, maybe it's not easy, but we need to do it to open up. It's also really good for opening up your pecs and your chest and opening up your heart so that you can just let, this, we're going to get through this. It's just are we going to go kicking and screaming, which I was going kicking and screaming. I want you to know. And finally I said, stop. You know what? You've got to get control of it. And Shamayne witnessed me going kicking and screaming. Hence probably why my hair has decided to fall out a little bit. And I know my hairdresser would say I've got plenty to lose. But the other thing, Shamayne, what do you think about just holding the thumb, like in a Ginsu Jitsu? What do you think about doing that? Is that a good thing to do at home? I want you to leave today's time with tools you can do at home so that you don't feel like don't have the power.
Yep. So yes, Ginsu Jitsu, it's a Japanese form of a system that looks at how the energy and the meridian flows throughout the whole body. And from my understanding with that philosophy is that you could activate the entire body through just the hands alone. Mm-hmm. And there's a really simple exercise that you could do is where you would hold each finger. You don't want to put tons of pressure on it at all. You don't want it to turn white and red. You can't feel anything. But you do want to just hold it gently. And it's very simple. You just sit there. And after a while, you will start to feel a pulse. Once you feel a pulse, then you know that you have opened and activated and cleared that entire meridian system. So you go through every single finger. And once you do that, and you could do both hands or just one side, you have activated the whole body. This is a really simple self-practice that you can do.
That's a great idea of doing that.
Yep.
A thought, it just came to me, making shit up as I go along here, making stuff up. But maybe you do a little prayer, kind of like when you're washing your hands, whatever. One of my prayers is the light of God surrounds me, the love of God enfolds me, the power of God protects me. And I'm guessing about the time I get done with that takes about 20 seconds or so, I probably would feel the pulse. So then you get two things. You're also saying a prayer to help yourself healing as well. Okay, so you've got the thumbs, hold, white foods. I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned each meridian has an emotion that goes with it. And you mentioned the emotion with grief. And I sometimes I wonder how we've shifted in a matter of weeks from kind of you against me to we're all in this together. And I'm wondering if we were grieving a little bit as a world.
Yeah, there's so many amazing correlations and symbolisms that I've been seeing, going through this. Just seeing how people are reflecting this, like whether through the news or social media, etc. But so yes, Chinese medicine, grief really affects the lungs, and when the lungs are affected, it could also create a lot of grief. So we see both sides. Quickly, I'll just go through like the liver. Anger affects the liver. And if we're out of balance with the liver long enough, it could start to create anger outwardly with our emotions. The heart, anxiety affects that. The kidneys, it's a lot of fear. So interesting, we're seeing this virus out here that can really go after the lungs, and we're seeing so much grief that people are going through. We're grieving over our routines that we used to have, our livelihood that we used to have, the distancing that we're seeing and being able not to connect. So I think it is really important that we really do focus on the beauty that's coming out of this, the beauty that we can embrace right now, and hopefully visualize the beauty that's going to come out of this so that we don't allow that grief and that sorrow to further hurt us physiologically and psychologically and mentally as well. I was just thinking today too that, when, shit hit the fan, excuse me, you said that. So, was right around Lent time, and Lent, and here was like, we were kind of like giving up all these things. And all of a sudden we had to give up so much. And we're going through this process of mourning, you know, in this week of Easter about to happen in these darker times. But know that there's a resurrection coming. There is something beautiful and growing that will come out of this. So that's what I'm trying to stay focused on.
Right. So thinking about and so what would be some ways if you knew a client had grief, and there's an article that came out, and I'm not sure if we can find it, Eleanor, and send it wherever you are. There you are, Eleanor. I got to identify you. Is you know, you know, that emotion you're feeling or something you're feeling, that's called grief. And so if you ask me, and Eleanor, we'll send that out to the group. I think it's a good article to think about how we are grieving. Somebody asked a question, Linda asked a question about where's a good place to do this. She wants to set up a place, and I know some people would say maybe like an altar to do some of these things, but talking about electronics, how they could be impacting some of the energy field of the Chinese medicine. Can you talk about, once again, 2 or 3 questions, there's so much stuff in this head. Talk about electronics and how this being honest all the time affects our chi.
Well, everything has an energy, whether you go down to the cell in our body, to something as obvious as the computer sitting in front of me and in our phone. Everything's emitting a vibration that affects us, and it disturbs our natural flow surrounded through our body. That's going to affect our organs and our mind and our emotions. You know, it's about balance. You know, we obviously, there's the beauty of technology that we are able to all connect right now, but it's not something that we want to stay on all the time. I personally never sleep with the phone in my bedroom. It's just out in the kitchen or in the living room charging up. I don't like to have anything surrounded by my head and my body. And so that's one way that I try to take care of myself with that. Try to get my kids to practice the same thing. A little harder with my 18-year-old. Yeah, so that was about electronics. What was your other question, Michelle?
Oh, I don't know. I've already thought of 5 more. No. No, I think that's perfect. Well, it does lead me to ground.
That's what you're saying. Like the question is like where to do this, like to set up an altar, what to practice. You know, if that feels good to you and speaks to your heart, absolutely do it. You know, make a sacred space for yourself, a place to retreat to, a place to honor, a place to take a deep breath. Also, you know, if that's just going to the bathroom and shutting the door away from your family and just sitting on the pot, you know, and just breathing for 2 minutes, that could become a sacred space as well. You know that we hold it within ourselves, and, you know, find it where you can. And don't put extra stress on yourself of trying to be the perfect surrounding or perfect spot.
Well, I'm going to come back to you in a second. I'm going to think about grounding, because you mentioned that when you first said you went outside to ground before. But Russ, I'm going to come to you. Do you have a recipe in mind? Do you think that would help the lungs during this time? What are you doing cooking wise?
Well, you know me, I love one pot meals. I like using my Instapot a lot. And I don't know how this plays in with the lungs per se. Cabbage. I love cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, all those nice sulfurous foods. So maybe that plays in to immune or lungs. I don't know. But one of my favorite things to make is shred cabbage, dice a sweet potato or chunk it up in like maybe half-inch cubes, and take ground turkey, brown it up, then add the sweet potatoes and the cabbage and just saute that all together with salt and pepper. And
maybe throw a little garlic and onion in that. That'll get the...
Yeah, whatever your seasoning of choice is. I like that no salt seasoning from Costco. It's got like 20 different things, like Mrs. Dash. But that's it. Simple. Takes like 20 minutes, start to finish.
Great. Shamayne, how do sulfur foods play into the lung channel, or which channel do they play into?
There's a lot of different foods that kind of cross back and forth, but the sulfur foods are like, you know, great for like the lungs you talked about, also for the kidneys, and parts of it like for the spleen. with Chinese medicine, there's always these really unique and dynamic relationships between the organs. So the spleen and the stomach, which is the core, the earth element of Chinese medicine, they believe that is the mother to the lungs. And so sometimes when we see that the lung energy is weak, as practitioners, we'll go check to see, is the mother okay? Is the mother weak, that she can't support her child? So that's also another really big key element, is that we need to make sure that the parent-child relationship is really strong. So we always want to take care of our digestion. We want to eat really, really healthy, clean foods. We want to make sure that we're not overthinking and worry. Those are emotions that affect the digestion, your spleen and stomach. So yeah, that's great.
Oh, I think a lot of it's probably been overthinking a lot. I know I have. Anybody else been overthinking, trying to figure out what's next? It's like, okay, just what's next? I love the advice I got, and I shared this, I believe, yesterday. I'll probably share it every day. Is a few weeks ago when I was freaking out, someone said, Michelle, are you okay right now? Are you okay right now? And I was like, I am okay right now. Well, then quit thinking about tomorrow, 60 days from now. Are we okay right now? So Shamayne, I've got, as we start to wrap up, and we've got a few more questions coming through. I'm curious, what gift are you? Because you've been around healing for 20 years. You helped me put together the wellness plan that we sent out to our clients from a whole person perspective. What are a few of the gifts you're finding already in this time of transition?
The gifts that I've been receiving back from all this?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, one that maybe seems like, it may seem like on the surface just like trivial, but I know a week before this all happened, at least hitting our United States and as hard as it did, is that I gave up alcohol. I wanted to be alcohol free. And normally, I probably, I found the strength in myself where I have continued to be alcohol free. Normally I would have been like, oh, hell no, I'm having some wine tonight after, some really intense moments. And I stopped and said, you know what? I need to be healthy for myself. I need to be healthy for my family and for my patients. So that's one thing that I've been really proud about, and like, wow, we have so much strength in ourselves, and so that's one thing that I'm sticking with. Two is that I am also trying to find that balance. As a working mother and with my kids and everything else, I would always feel guilty that I wasn't home enough, or I'm not there for them. And then I've been having moments the past several weeks where I'm like, wow, family time is really overrated. And, wow, I really want to go to work. And so how I'm balancing that is that I need to let go of my guilt that I was having before, and to realize that it's about quality, not so much that I have to be there all the time. And so now, we're finding that rhythm and finding our routine where we're having that really quality time as well. And my kids also need a break too from mama. So those are some really great gifts that I'm finding.
Well, I told this story years ago on my podcast with one of the people that helped me through some times, Joan Borsinko. If anybody's heard of Joan, she's on my podcast April 1st. I think it was around 2016-ish. And she has a book called Guilt is the Teacher, Love is a Lesson. And I want to be totally transparent. I've never read her book, but I heard her telling the story about her and her son praying over her mother when she was making her transition. And I just envisioned them holding hands, and they were praying, and she always battled with her mother. And as we were coming on, I said, Linda Fingston's on, and Linda's been a surrogate mother to me since I was in 9th grade. So a long time, but they were praying over her, and they just battled a lot. And I battled a lot with my mother for a long time. And it's that her son opened his eyes and he said, oh my gosh, do you know how lucky you were to have her as your mother? And that really went to my heart. And so I was able to start to developed love for my mother instead of the anger that I carried inside my body. And I think part of this healing we're having is how do we strip ourselves of what's really not important, whether it's the emotions we're having, whether it's the stuff, whether it's the relationships as we're being cocooned back to ourself with our connections to our higher good. And so, but I remember that her telling that story, and it really set me on a path, Shamayne. So when you said the guilt, you may find her work. Have you heard of Joan Borsinko?
I haven't. I'll have to look for it and read it. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. But also, if you type in Small Changes Big Shifts Joan Borsinko, you'll actually hear us talking about that story, which has been really cool. So a question that someone has is, where can people find a source that is more kind of brought down to the general public about this Chinese medicine principles? Is there a good book you recommend, or a website, or a podcast?
There's a great book. It's called Between Heaven and Earth. Really explains like the 5 elements and principles of it. Another great book is The Web That Has No Weaver. That one's a little bit more technical, but it's still a great read. Yeah, those are probably my top 2 like for sources. Websites, there's so many. Acupuncture, Chinese medicine is becoming really widespread and widely accepted. So yeah, those are some good ones. And then you could always come and talk to me. Call me up or email me if you have any specific questions. I'd love to help.
Are you doing any little phone consults with people during this time, since you're in the office just 2 days a week right now seeing patients?
Absolutely. Yep. If they have any questions about diet or herbs or anything, that I'd be happy to help them and support them.
Okay, Eleanor, would you put her email address, if you don't mind, Shamayne? We'll put it in the chat series to everybody so they have it.
Perfect.
That'd be great. It's our goal at the end of this, or on the other side. I'm not going to say the end because I'm not sure there's going to be necessarily an end, but on the other side of this, that you have so many wonderful new tools. You go, holy sugar, that was so amazing, because I value my self-care far greater than I ever did before, but from a whole person perspective. And when you hear Shamayne, some of you know about Dr. Yenny and his influence of helping bring acupuncture to the States. And so I love talking to Shamayne about this, because I know enough to kind of get us started, but she just dives into it, whether it's around 5 elements or around how the time clock is. The lung channel is what happens with the lung channel between 3 and 5 a.m., by the way, Shamayne? Talk about the time, the wheel, each channel is on a time.
So there's a 24-hour period where the energy is going through the meridians at specific time. So 3 to 5 is lung time. A lot of people that wake up during this time, they may have the physical issues of the lung, shortness of breath or coughing. Also, people are also working out, we believe, a lot of sorrow and grief at that time. So some practitioners, even back in the ancient times, if people had lung problems, they would actually treat you between 3 and 5 a.m. And they would, you'd have to like stay up, or between 1 and 3 a.m. for the liver. But we don't have to do that anymore. But yeah, so it's a good thing to know.
I posted on social media a couple of days ago where this nurse was doing something funny, where she was kind of doing, in a sense, cupping on their back. Talk about what they can do. Is that good for the lungs, and from a Chinese medicine perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a Tui Na technique, and Tui Na is the classic way to say it. Some people maybe know it as like acupressure. It's a little bit more, but so on the back is the urinary bladder meridian. But with that said, we can activate all the major organ systems. So doing this cupping, with your own hand, you could even use the old classic karate chop all the way down. And that's just going to increase blood flow to all those meridians and through the spine, which is going to really increase all that micro, what am I thinking of? The circulation, the microcirculation throughout that body that will affect the lymph system and the organs. So it's perfect.
Great.
Yep.
So there's another tool for you to do. So if you live alone, what could you do? Could you do kind of over the lung one meridian?
You could go like
I mean-
through here. Yep. Some people do like the thymus tapping, kind of find your inner goddess there, or God. Go through there. You could like massage along that meridian channel that we talked about. Find those tender spots. If you find a tender spot, that might be an area where there might be some blockage there, and you just kind of work on it and start opening things up. So that would be great.
Well, Shamayne, we're going to start to wrap up now. So if there's any more questions, please let me know. Shamayne, on this, anything I do, I'd like to celebrate Guide Connect, which provide hope. And I'm celebrating you and celebrating the magic that you do with your Chinese medicine and for all the years we've been together about helping people. So thank you so much for taking time today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be a part of the tribe and, to help each other and help people and keep moving on. For me, it's healing the world one needle at a time.
One needle at a time. So would you say that? So I believe everybody has medicine that they can share with the world. Everybody on this call has their own medicine. Would you say what would you say? Would you say that's your medicine, sharing one needle at a time, or what would you say? That sounds kind of like a little bit of a drug campaign.
Yeah. It's acupuncture, the needles it's a tool. I love to empower people. I love to remind them that they're worthy and that they have those answers, and that I'm here to support them, and that I'm here to witness them and to say, that you matter, and this and you've got this. And so I like to think that that's what my gift, my magic is reflecting the magic in others that's already there. So it's nothing special, except that we're all special together.
I think we're finding that more and more.
Yep.
We're wrapping up now, and so if you have any more questions, great. What I wanted to tell you, tomorrow's session will be with Britt Frank. Britt's an author. She was on the podcast in February. She's a psychologist. She's just got a lot of wisdom. So I think you'll really enjoy our conversation tomorrow. You can find Shamayne at, of course, yourwellnessconnection.com/acupuncture. Her email's in the chat, so feel free to, I would say, here's the prayer that someone gave me, and you're going to hear this a lot over the next month, about 5 or 6 weeks ago. And the prayer, I add stuff to it, but it was this simple: Mother, Father, God, choose me. And then Mother, Father, God, use me. And Mother, Father, God, move me. And so hopefully you've been moved today to do something as simple as holding your thumbs and your fingers and just doing your own energy work on yourself for that gift. Shamayne, as we wrap up, I've been inspired to tell people how they inspire me, but I want to start with some of the notes that are coming through in the chat section that you'll be able to see. Vanessa's another great session. And Vanessa, it's so great to have you in our tribe for all these years. That's awesome. Cheryl, thanks for the wisdom and the encouragement. Hang on, I'm trying to go through here. This was great. Just so much good thing. But I'm going to tell you what you mean to me. Try not to cry. What you mean to me is you keep me upright. And there's so many days, and some people may know this, that I tend to overgive, and I'm on a little bit of a break right now. I'm coming back to the center next week. But you know what? You help me so much by being believing eyes for me. You also help me because I know the magic of Chinese medicine, and it's hard for me to explain that to the people I serve. But Shamayne will come into a treatment room with me unbeknownst, knowing nothing that's going on, and will feel somebody's wrists and look at their tongue. And she will give them an idea of what they just told me, and some. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't even tell you that I'm having no sex drive, or I didn't tell you that I'm waking up at 2 p.m. And so you really are gifted. And thank you for being a warrior, because we are warriors together. And at Your Wellness Connection, you've got kind of your corner, and I got my corner, and we just go to town. So thank you. I love you, and I appreciate you. All right.
Love you too.
All right, tribe. Have a wonderful day. Find your rhythm. Find your rhythm. We're going to build resilience. We're going to get through this. And I will see you tomorrow with Britt Frank. Blessings to all of you.